fabulous.
Aged people got their fair share of column inches this weekend. Prince Philip was photographed leaving hospital in something approaching fine fettle. There he was, waving a tagged hand at the press. His only comment was... Charlton Heston, meanwhile, didn't say much of anything at all, being as he was dead. He's still dead, as a matter of fact. The man who once kissed a talking monkey full on the lips and used to play God in movies before the role went to Morgan Freeman was famously a member of America's far-right National Rifle Association, the nice people who encourage the arming of American citizens because of some ancient nonsense in the Constitution about bearing arms. "You'll get my gun when you take it from my cold, dead hands," he once said at a rally, to much whooping and cheering from the mono-browed reactionaries in the audience. Well, don't delay. Rigor mortis will only make it harder. And then there was the old lady who asked a member of the public to feel her up. The sort of thing that might have invited a ticking off when Bobbies pounded the beat, but is now likely to be followed by a lawsuit for compensation citing sexual harassment. Except in this case it was all right because it was on television. All right, that is, for everyone except the man who obliged and everyone who watched him do it. Anne Robinson, who must have read some fawning reviewers imply that she's a sex kitten, asked a celebrity whom no one has heard of to feel her breasts on the weakest link. Well, who wouldn't want to get intimate with a granny in public? Oh, a sea of hands. She's 163 years old. It must have been like squashing 2 half-full paper bags of suet. Or she's a well-preserved mature lady with the body of a pert teenager. Which do you think? Either way, Wayne fancies his chances. What a horrible thought, and you were screwing your face up as I said it. I saw you do it.
Just eaten.
Well, I just report the facts. I don't make 'em. I just tell the truth as it is, dealt. That is horrible. Good job I don't watch The Weakest Link. She's fashioned herself as, and she was, there was a picture of her in the papers, receiving treatment. She's got a little blonde bob and little glasses, and she used to fashion herself as the, and I only say it because this is what she presented herself as, the quiz bitch. Didn't she? In a, what looked like a Nazi Gestapo uniform, with the long leather trench coat and the withering look. Amazing that she didn't have an angle poised lamp to point it at the people she was asking questions of. But now she seems to be all soft and round, and whenever I see a picture of her, it's as though... You remember in the movies that Charlton Heston used to appear in, when shafts of light would come from in between the clouds, like a ray of light from heaven is what it looked like, and everybody that's photographed looking at it has this golden glow around them, as though they've been photographed through a colander. That's what she looks like. Maybe they smear Vaseline over the lens when they point the camera at Anne. Or they could dip Anne in Vaseline. Both of those, I think, come out with the same conclusion. A giant vat of Vaseline. They hold her by her ankles and just push her right in it, just before she goes on the air. I'd like to help, as a matter of fact.
I'll see if there's an opening for that job.
Oh, will you? Thanks very much. Yeah. Speaking of Wayne, by the way, have you noticed how much a superior southern amusement was gained with the display of ladies at Aintree this last week? All the Liverpool... Because Aintree's in Liverpool, right? I previously didn't know that. I know nothing about horse racing. Come to find out that it's either in Liverpool or it must be close by because it was full of Liverpudlian wags and their, various assorted hangers-on. Well, the national press, and it wasn't even the bad end of the national press. It was the type that should actually know better, but has this sort of southern-based sneaking feeling of superiority above our northern neighbours. They printed the pictures of what looked like, I said this on Friday, it looked like Viz Comics' Fat Slags Convention. It was horrific. Am I right?
It wasn't pretty.
Which was basically like these television programmes. I believe there's one on tonight. In fact, there's two on tonight. One is of, maybe I shouldn't even talk about it because people will go, oh, gosh, is that on? The chap who had... Now, you can stop laughing now, because this next bit isn't funny. And I'm walking myself up a cul-de-sac that isn't going anywhere, just to prove a point, which I'll probably forget what I was talking about by the time I've finished it. So hold on to whatever it was that I was just talking about. What was that?
Aintree, ladies, snobbery, sneering.
Oh, yeah, okay. I had actually forgotten. I'm going to write it down. Aintree. It's basically Victorian freak show pointing and laughing, isn't it? And there's a couple of television programmes on like that this evening. One's on Channel 4, which seems to specialise in this sort of thing, and it's of a chap whose tumour has overgrown his face to the point that you can't see him anymore. I saw the briefest flash on television as, like a coming up soon. God, of the, like a promo for this programme. And I just had to avert my eyes straight. This is not a programme that I want to see. Why would anybody want to see that? Well, much the same way as you want to go and see a bearded lady or the tattooed freak at the old circus. And then I think that's followed at 10 o'clock by the world's fattest man on Channel 5. Another in the in a gallery of freaks that we can point at and laugh. And but this is essentially what the audience is encouraged to do. And I know it's a tenuous link, but this is essentially what we were encouraged to do, the dress sense of the ladies who'd shown up at Aintree. It was awful. Tops that didn't meet bottoms, piercings on show, pints of lager in hand. They looked like they'd just survived an explosion in a crinoline factory. Hideous. But I did detect a note of southern superiority in all the newspapers' coverage, as you could probably detect a note in what I just said. I'm not part of the solution, I'm part of the problem. But now, Wayne Rooney's forthcoming nuptials to Colleen, whose name always, whenever I see it or hear it, it always says colon to me. It's not... Colleen. Who's called Colleen? Jolene? Colleen? I've never heard of such a name in my life. What is the nature of her family, by the way? Because she seems to be, she seems to think herself above all of this. Because she makes her own money and she has her own scent, but would she have any of these things if she hadn't been having sex with a footballer?
There is an argument that because she was with him before he was rich and famous, it's not as questionable as some of the others.
Is that true?
Maybe.
What? No,
that she was with him before?
Yeah.
I think so.
Is that true, Visa?
I would say so, yeah.
Are you guessing?
No, I think... I'm trying to think of famous examples, like Cynthia Lennon, John Lennon's first wife. They were together when he wasn't doing much at all and wasn't making any money. Right.
No, my question is, were Colleen and Wayne an item before Wayne hit pay dirt?
I can't remember them ever not being an item, if that's an answer.
Well, no, it isn't, because we've never have heard of them previous to Wayne, causing a little tubby sensation.
Someone out there must know.
Do you think? 0845 6060 973. Colleen McLaughlin must have thought that she had a dilemma over her fiancé Wayne Rooney's troublesome relatives cracked when she hatched a plan to have 2 wedding receptions. But the notion of having one party for A-listers on the Italian Riviera and a subsequent one for the Rooney clan in Liverpool has proved problematic. That is shocking. Don't you think? It's like, we'll have all me celebrity friends in Italy, and then you can have your family behind closed doors, back in the pew. Miss McLaughlin, who has barred many of the Rooneys from upmarket Mediterranean celebrations, faces a chorus of disapproval after suggesting a limit on alcohol at the Merseyside party. She's trying to juggle the demands of a £2.5 million deal with a glossy magazine. Name them and shame them. Who gave them £2.5 million for the photographs of that horror show? Maybe they're doing it because it's going to be a horror show. Maybe they outbid each other, not because because Colleen must assume that it's going to, she's at the height of glamour. She ain't. I've seen the pictures. Trust me, dear, that's not you. Maybe they're competing... well, £2.5 million, that's got to be something of a record. For a wedding, snaps? So perhaps it went up that high because... Not because they thought that this was going to be a glamorous event, but because they thought it might be laugh-out-loud hilarious. And you can't put a price on funny. Well, you can, £2.5 million. The magazine's proprietors will no doubt want big stars with the needs of her fiancé's more down-to-earth extended family, who hail from Croxteth. Doesn't she also hail from Croxteth?
That I don't know.
Where I would guess 90% of the population is unemployed, and has been for generations. Isn't it 70%, something like that? When you look at the map of where all the unemployed people are, Manchester, Liverpool, hardly anyone anywhere else. That's where it's all concentrated on. Not just unemployed now, but have been unemployed for 20, 30 years. But some of the Rooney relatives are said to want their moment in the limelight as well, so Miss McLaughlin is understood to have been in discussion with the magazine's publishers to have the Merseyside party covered. Source said, if that's going to happen, Colleen is saying they have to behave and drink is going to be limited. That goes from anyone from Wayne downwards. How are you going to manage that? We're going to strip search them on the way in. I mean, if you went to a wedding and they said, well, there won't be much alcohol, you'd take your own, right? I would. So, well, and if I would, these people must. This is a big deal for Colleen, said a source. She's even hoping to get the wedding in the American version of the glossy magazine in the hope that it will launch her and Wayne as a major new celebrity couple in America. Well, best luck with that, dear. You see, the difference between you and the Beckhams is David Beckham is pretty. He doesn't look like the last potato in the sack. Big difference. 7:45. LBC Travel with Alan Joyce.
Thanks, Nick. Just an update for you now.
We have a Samsung LCD 32-inch television in our How Low auction at the moment. It is HD ready. It is one of the best viewing experiences on the market. It has Freeview in it, which will give you instant access to all of those digital channels. It has high-definition scaling. I have no idea what that is, but it's probably great. Now, this auction closes tomorrow at 7 p.m, and to enter, remember it's a reverse auction, the person with the lowest unique bid wins. To enter, text LBC plus your bid and pence to 88821. If you were to bid 56 pence, for instance, you would text LBC 56 to 88821. Bids cost £1.50 plus your standard network rate. Lines close 7 p.m, Tuesday, 8th April. Bidders must be over 16. lbc.co.uk for full terms and conditions. Here's a call in Lower Kingswood. Hello, Carol.
Hello.
Carol.
How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Not too bad.
Well, mustn't grumble.
Yes, Wayne and Colleen.
Wayne and Colon, yes.
Yeah. Now, if memory serves me right, they were childhood sweethearts. They've been together since early teens.
Really? How did you know that?
I remember when he was playing for Everton, when he first came to prominence, he's been noticed.
Yeah.
She was actually still at school.
Right.
There was I remember photographs of her walking to school in her school uniform. That's when he made the Everton first team.
Right, he being a babe at the time as well.
Sorry?
He being very young at the when he was doing that.
I think he was only about 16 or something, 16, 17. But I do know that they were childhood sweethearts.
Ah.
And I think I have actually read it somewhere as well.
What a beautiful picture that paints, isn't it, Carol?
Because she looked a bit frumpy in the school uniform, and she had a duffel coat on, and it wasn't the most flattering of photos. She was walking to school, which was a little bit unkind of the press at the time. But
all right, well, thanks for the update, Carol.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye.
0845 6060 973. That is a charming picture that she paints, isn't it? But I don't actually want the photographs. Rooney's cousins, Natalie and Stephen, are fully expecting photographers from this magazine, who I still don't know who they are. The magazine in which she wants to launch Brand Rooney in the US in the same way that Brand Beckham did. She doesn't want anything spoiling that, like drunken in-laws, for example. They're never going to be like Brand Beckham, are they? At all, not ever, never. They look like the uglier, cheaper version.
Brand Beckham hasn't exactly been a raging success in America, has it?
Are you kidding? He earns something like £150 million.
Okay.
I think they're doing very well.
I'm not going to defend my point.
Yeah, as to whether anybody's buying their perfume over there, well, I don't know. Is anyone that crazy? Why anybody would want to buy perfume with somebody's name on it that they've seen off the telly? Hey, Vizza, whose perfume are you wearing? You smell fantastic, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't wear any.
Like I said. It's just your personal body odour. You should bottle it.
Oh. No, I always thought it was a little weird when Jade Goody brought out hers.
A little
I thought,
weird.
who would want a perfume with Jade Goody's name on it? But
Yes,
there you are.
and no end of people, apparently, because she's doing very well as well. So well, in fact, that a lot of young girls in school are actually basing their future lives on her. They think that being Jade Goody is a career option.
Now I'm depressed.
Yeah, well, it's true. I'm going to be famous. That's what they say. As though they can just think it up and do it. I mean, being famous by being in show business, that's hard enough. But being famous just by being plucked from obscurity and made into a reality TV star, well, that's just never going to happen. It's like I've said before, you might as well have winning the lottery as your career. It's as likely as it is, by the way, for the gruesome twosome to be to become a brand in America. You're quite right. Beckham and Posh aren't very big in America. They're big in America only because they're big here. In other words, they've gone to live in America with all of their money because we're more interested in them in America than Americans are to have them in their midst. Americans have got no idea who they are. Americans don't know what football is.
So we like them, but just not in our country. It's very NIMBY-ish, isn't it? It's very English.
No, well, no, that's not true, because since the death of Diana, of course, the result came out. Please move along, nothing to see here. I think that was the result, wasn't it? Anybody believing that?
No.
No, we're still not going to believe it. You can say it until you're blue in the face. People will still not believe it. Do you have the, because it came out too late for the newspapers, do you have the actual text of whatever it was that they came out with, the Diana inquiry? We'll get that up in just a moment. A flurry of activity through there, an ecstasy of fumbling. Where was I? Actually, where was I?
Beckham, Jade,
Oh yeah, since the death of Diana, the press has been desperately scrabbling around in the dirt to try to find something that will keep us as interested as the various trails and trials of Diana has, and they found nothing. For a little while, they thought they'd got something with the woman who had a Kit Kat at her wedding. What's she called? Grant Bovies. Now, how can I remember his name and not her? Anthea Turner. Yeah, that's right.
How did she come into this?
They were trying to find a Diana substitute, and they landed on Anthea Turner for a while because she's sort of looky-likey. She's blonde, kind of famous, been on TV. We'll go for her, they said. And then it all sort of went a bit wrong. And then this angel descended as though from heaven and cured all of their problems with one swipe of his boot, playing against Wimbledon when he scored from inside his own half. And then it all went crazy with the haircuts and the styling, and it was almost as though somebody had written a manual on how to become famous, and they'd just followed a 10-point plan, because it worked unbelievably well. Not the greatest footballer that ever lived, not the greatest footballer, questionably, arguably rather, in this country at any period during which he's been playing. Without doubt, the most famous and the wealthiest. So it's all PR. And that's what they landed on with David Beckham. But the Rooneys have got no chance. I mean, just look at him. No offence. But a source said that Rooney's cousins Natalie and Stephen are fully expecting photographers from the magazine to cover both wedding celebrations. But that could lead to problems. Natalie, 18, an aspiring glamour model, caused a stir when she exposed a breast at Miss McLaughlin's 21st birthday last year and then threatened to strip entirely at the nuptials. Her 23-year-old brother Stephen, a gay transvestite, is reported to have offered his services as a bridesmaid. but has found out that he won't be going to Italy either. Of course, you remember that they, at their, I can't remember what it was. Was it when they got engaged? The police had to be called because the two families went at each other's throats. Oh, I'd love to have an invite to one of those, wouldn't you? It'd be fantastic. I mean, if you were a novelist, or indeed a psychologist, well, there's your thesis right there. I mean, just look at these people. Be like feeding time at the zoo. But unfortunately, I suppose I'm not on the list. And if your name's not on the list, you're not coming in. What a strange avenue we've walked down so far. Let's see what happens after the new news. This is LBC 97.3.
Yeah.
There was a couple of things that were mentioned on the news, one of which is the Olympic torch. Now, there was an article which I thought was quite good about our relationship with China in general, which I might read a bit of a little later on. But if they put the torch out, then it's not the Olympic torch anymore, is it? Isn't the key of it is that the flame has to travel uninterrupted around? I mean, they even had it lit when it was on the plane. I mean, not an actual flaming torch, but they transferred the flame to a little lamp, which I believe they had lit on the plane when it came over from wherever it was. Where has it just been? Did it actually come from China? I don't know. It's not important. But the important part is that it didn't go out. But if the French have put it out, well, that's that then. It's got to go back to the beginning, hasn't it? That doesn't seem to be in the spirit of the thing. I thought that the travelling of the flame around the world had to be that actual flame. I mean, otherwise, you could just phone it in, and a bloke at the other end could just flick his lighter on. Anyway, here is Eltham. Hello, Phil.
Hi, Nick.
Phil.
Yeah, it's the games are now null and void, I suppose. Now
Yeah, they're off. Yeah.
Yeah. So, job done. No, I was just phoning in. Sad though it is, I just saw an LBC ad on TV just now.
On telly, oh yeah.
Yeah, the Nick Ferrari going on about the mayoral thing, you know.
Mayoral thing, yeah, the big mayoral debate this Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, fear not, I won't go into what happened last time when I was talking to you on the radio. Don't suppose you can remember. But
No, I don't, no. But neither does anybody else.
That's
So,
right,
what are you talking about?
No, last time when I started giving a sort of something you're not allowed to say on the radio at this time, a sort of preference towards so-and-so.
See, still nobody understands what you're saying, so we'll just skip over that bit.
Yeah,
because you seem to be having difficulty in, saying it, let alone me understanding it.
Sure.
But it was the television ad for this Thursday. From 8 o'clock, it's going to have Ken Livingstone, Boris Johnson. You can't just say Boris anymore, that's against the law. It'll cost you £5 every time you say it. Boris Johnson and Brian Paddock, all in at 8 o'clock this Thursday on Nick's show in the morning, yeah. And there's TV ads, and you've just seen it.
Quite. And just out of interest, I just went into YouTube.
YouTube.
Oh, by the way, I came in to ask you, why did you say it twice?
It's a derogatory term in Australia, isn't it? YouTube.
Oh, right.
And anybody that spends all their life watching YouTube deserves being called YouTube.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
So it's YouTube.
Cool.
The first the name and the second the insult.
Right.
Okay.
But if you type in LBC advert into Google,
Yeah,
other search engines are available.
that's right.
You get like some YouTube clips coming up. One's from 1982. It's really surreal. Do you remember The Prisoner?
I do.
Patrick McGowan.
Yeah.
And basically, there's an LBC ad, like intercut with the opening scene of The Prisoner.
Huh.
Feature scenes out from Lloyd's of London and the old buses.
I am not a number, I am a free man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old logo. And the tagline back then was the information station.
Well, I have no knowledge of that, but I'll have to go and check it out when I get home.
Yeah, I'm
Somebody
sure.
did send me a link to a YouTube clip of an old program on American television called, was it called What's My Line? Perhaps it was, yeah. Where they bring on a mystery guest, and the panel has to guess what it is that they do. And it was it was actually quite bizarre, because it was in black and white, and the game show host wasn't at all like game show hosts are these days, where all the vestige of intelligence has been wiped from the screen. He was actually using long words with many syllables that I didn't know what they meant, and I felt like reaching for a dictionary every time he opened his mouth. And the guest was Salvador Dali. If you want a laugh, dial up Salvador Dali, What's My Line? Because the panel have to be blindfolded while they're trying to guess who this is, because most of the subjects aren't famous, they just do odd things. But of course Salvador Dali, instantly visually recognisable. But all of the questions that they asked, it came the answer, yeah, like, do you do what? And of course Salvador Dali does everything, so they didn't get an answer no to anything. Do you write? Are you a performer? Are you an artist? Do you do, are you known for your sporting excellence? And Salvador Dali was just saying yes to everything. Yeah. They were mystified. It's an amusing 10 minutes.
I think he was the guy who said, if I could be born again, I would be Salvador Dali. I think that's one of the guys.
He also said, I am not crazy at all. But of course he was.
Cool.
Anyway, that's great. Thanks very much, Phil.
Cheers, Nick.
Cheers, ta-ra.
Bye.
Whatever it is that call was about, I've got no idea. It's not important. 0845 6060 973. Of course, snow was something that surprised us all on Sunday, and that's what they're blaming the cancelled flights on to Terminal 5 now. First it was the baggage, and then it was... wasn't there an excuse in the middle? First it was us, and then it was BAA. That's right. Oh, that's right. It was a malfunction in the software. They'd got their problem completely sorted out at BA, and then, woe betide them, it was a malfunction in the software, which meant that it was all screwed up again. But we'll have it completely sorted by Sunday, they said. And then snow made them cancel all those flights again. Now... maybe I was just lucky where I live, but the snow was so light you could see the grass through it. There was hardly any snow at all. And it was gone by midday. You know, if you woke up early in the morning just as the sun was rising, then there was plenty of it. Little crystals on the trees they were. It was a veritable winter wonderland. By 10, 11 o'clock it was going, and by midday not a flake to be seen. However, this meant that actual planes, huge, heavy things that can soar through the sky for thousands of miles, were grounded by a light flurry. What kind of a country is this? In America, 16 feet of snow doesn't prevent people from going out their house and going to work. Here, the tiniest sight of it locks the country. Hey, the whole world's gone crazy. Am I right?
As always.
As always, yeah. Stop saying that. I'm going to believe you. But it was just so pathetic. And I thought, shall I drive in on Sunday? Shall I not? Oh, even when it's raining, the roads grind to a halt. I mean, how silly is that? We have wipers. Use them. Maintain your speed. But I thought the snow, that's really going to put the kibosh on it. I have no idea what that means. I wouldn't even know how to spell it to look it up. Come to find out, the roads were fine. It's just that there were 10 million policemen on bicycles and bikes and cars. There were more flashing lights than at the fun fair. And they were spread over London like a skin rash. You couldn't move an inch without coming up. And I was about 20 yards from the procession by accident, coming over Westminster Bridge. It was coming in the opposite direction. And this sea of blue flashing lights was ahead of me, and the line of traffic had ground to a halt, and I thought, there's no good way that this is going to end, because I'd seen the scuffles on the news, And, there's not much paint left on my car, so I thought I'll preserve the bits that are left. So I did a U-E in front of the massed ranks of the London Constabulary. I'm surprised they didn't arrest me and crush my car on the spot. But whether it's illegal or not, I don't know. I just had to do it. Can you do a U-E? Ever? Is that ever acceptable?
Yeah, in some places.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's signs for no U-turn, so that implies that sometimes you must be allowed to do a U-turn.
Well, I suppose so. Yeah. Although there's like a warning bell going off in the back of my mind that that's just an underlining that you're not supposed to do a U-turn, that it's never actually acceptable. It's just that when you see the sign, it's really, really not acceptable. Like a red line. I mean, double yellow lines, that seems to do the job for me. Like, don't park there, no stopping. But they go one louder with a double red line. What's the difference? What can that possibly mean? How can you get worse than don't stop here?
I was sure that double yellows meant don't park here, as in do not leave your car.
Yeah.
But red is do not stop, do not let your wheels stop moving. You have to keep going. And I think that I'm sure that was the difference.
Right. Don't stop here, we mean it.
Yeah.
That's what a double red means. What a single red means, no one has any idea. See, even you. I have beaten you. 8:14. LBC Travel with Karen Mercer.
Something's just coming into my screen.
The number 0845 6060 973. Here's Kensington. Hello, Noel.
Hello, Nick.
Noel.
Yellow lines and red lines.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the red lines belong to Transport for London.
What do you mean?
And the single red, you can stop between prescribed hours. Usually it's 7 in the morning till 9 in the evening. It's the hours you're not allowed on the single red. The double red, you're not allowed any time at all, and most of them have got cameras.
Yeah, but you're not allowed any time at all on double yellow.
Well, double yellow is local councils, and although you shouldn't stop on them, you can have a couple of minutes on them, but the double red...
No, you cannot.
You can, yeah.
You cannot have a couple of minutes on a double yellow line.
The councils are a bit more lenient than Transport for London. Transport for London, there's no leniency whatsoever.
Well, I don't think that's rubbish, Noel. There's no leniency whatsoever if one of those nice parking wardens, or whatever you call them now, catch you on a double yellow. There's no such thing. Leniency's not in their dictionary.
No, but they'll come over to you and tell you you've got to move, which is...
No, unlikely, Noel. They'll be hiding in a bush, writing down your details, so as to slap a ticket on your windscreen unsuspected, like.
No, they're not unfriendly people. No.
What a sense of humour.
Transport for London have got hidden cameras all over the place now, and that is... all you know is about 3 days later you get a little square envelope come through your letterbox and a photograph of your car, and that's it. £60, please, within 40 days, or £120 within 28 days.
I thought I'd got flashed going through a red light the other day, but I think it was just a flash of lightning, or I had...
yeah.
Maybe...
Unless you receive a fine within 14 days,
yeah,
it's not legal.
Oh, right, well,
You've
okay.
got rights to write back and say, you know...
Oh, so Noel said...
3 weeks later. No, it's got to be 14 days for a red light.
Right. Okay.
All right, Nick. So
thanks, Noel.
You're all you'll find.
All right, cheers, mate. I hasten to add that I didn't deliberately go through a red light. I was, often you approaching a light and at speed, like 80, 90 miles an hour in a built-up area. And it will start to change just in front of you. And you think, either I slam my brakes on and there will be I will come to a screeching halt and a giant smoking scene, or I'll just carry on. And so, probably, as I was in the middle of the junction, the lights turned red, and I swear I saw in my rearview mirror the flash of a camera. I'll find out. Bethnal Green, hello, Ian.
Nick, out of the recent problems that's arisen with Terminal 5 and the weekend with the Olympic business,
yeah,
we could get 2 new events out of this, couldn't we? in the Olympics, and we must get gold on it. We could have one where the team arrives and you see how many suitcases they can get to their correct destination. And the other one, we could have the marathon increased, I think, to 31 mile and seeing who can put the torch out.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah? Do you think it could be a winner?
And you could twin it with wrestling as well, because there seems to be a lot of that going on.
Yeah, I mean, we must get gold, surely, mustn't we?
Well, it's definitely something to work for.
Well, you could also throw in with that perhaps road working and all, seeing how many, we could dig up roads, but we can't put them back or anything like that.
And the long jump over potholes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that's all I had to offer you tonight, Nick. Sorry.
All right. Thanks, Ian. We could rule the world. He's right about that. And these, the thing came through London, and it's been the major news story for the last few days. And as I'm looking at these people, and the police are on bicycles, by the way. Did you see that? And every time something happened, the police would desert their bicycles, and they'd just leave them lying there in the middle of the road. And I thought, somebody's going to have that. They leave their bike there, and then they go and deal with a perp. And there's just bicycles littered all over the road. And they're probably quite nice bikes. Well, we've paid for them. I bet they've, no expense spared. And I just thought, well, somebody's bound to just pick that up and have it away with it. There's probably little CS gas canisters and, all sorts of interesting weaponry located on that bike. And we come to find out that that's exactly what people have been doing. One of the least secure professions is the police force itself. People are nicking things from the police. Which is a bit bizarre, really, isn't it? Because they don't have to call the police. They're already there. Red-faced police have admitted being the victims of a crime wave. Thieves have plundered dozens of sat-navs, mobile phones, patrol bikes and items of kit from Britain's second biggest force. One cheeky joyrider even took a £40,000 liveried Range Rover. And other thieves stole drugs that had been seized in a raid. Crooks also made off with a set of... They even nicked the flashing blue lights off the top of their car. Can you believe that? Over a 3-year period, West Midlands Police suffered criminal losses of £130,000. And if West Midlands Police have suffered that amount, you'd think that our own boys in blue down here are also, every time they turn around, oh, blimey, where's my desk? They've disclosed that a thief stole cash from officers while they exercised in a police gym. They launched an investigation after thieves pinched toilet rolls from a police station toilet. The figures on internal police thefts, which include stolen handcuffs, helmets, batons, and stab-proof vests, are not normally made public, but they've been disclosed in a response to a request from under the Freedom of Information Act, that pesky act which is making the darker corners of our society a little clearer. Between 2004 and 2007, West Midlands Police lists more than 300 individual items as stolen, damaged or recovered. And you'd have to think that in much of these cases, it's the actual police that's doing the nicking. Because who would walk into a police station and steal their toilet paper? That's ludicrous, isn't it? A policeman did, because he thought, oh, I'll have some of that. We're needing some toilet paper. Is that more likely that a policeman would nick the actual toilet paper, that he's already there and he thinks, oh, I haven't got any at home, or I'll save some money, than somebody deliberately breaking into a police station to steal toilet paper? That's not very likely, is it? The haul of equipment includes 33 sat-navs, security cameras, 16 police bikes, mobile phones, laptop computers, CS spray used to quell violent offenders, breathalyzers, a warrant card and cash. The West Midlands Police said, like any organisation, the force and its property and people can be affected by all types of crime. The force takes every measure to guard against this. These are key, because just at the end of when he was saying this, he realised that that's the way he speaks, so he's kind of changed his accent right at the end there. He says, these occasions are relatively rare and investigated as thoroughly as any report of a crime would be. Oh, what, like saying, oh, we can't send anyone around now, we're too busy, we're trying to find our police car, our whistle. I wonder if he had his tongue in his cheek when he said that. The occasions are relatively rare and investigated as thoroughly as any report of a crime would be. Anybody reported a crime lately? Been told that an officer is on the way. 3 days later, they're still travelling. Be with you any moment.
I was very impressed recently, actually. I witnessed an assault, and they were there like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Where was that, then?
It was on Ealing Common. I was walking across the common and saw some guys fighting and thought, oh, it's messing about.
Yeah.
And when I saw the blood gushing from a man's head, I realised maybe they weren't just messing about.
Blimey.
Not nice. But the police were there very quickly, so it's one for them.
Did you call them?
I did.
You called them? You called 999? Did you feel a bit nervous when you were doing it? Because it's a bit forbidden fruit, isn't it?
Well, sometimes it's a bit you're not really sure if it's serious enough, but that was not, a pretty easy case.
I've only done that once, and the person on the end of the... Because you don't get straight through to the police, of course, you get through to the person who's going to direct your call to the appropriate service. And they said, which service would you like? Which threw me a bit, because I wasn't expecting a service. It's like a concierge. Well, can you book us tickets to go and see Oliver? And I said, I don't know. What an idiot. They're busy. Thousands of calls coming in with all sorts of emergencies. They've got some fool on the line he doesn't even know who he wants to speak to. I don't know. Because the problem that I was reporting wasn't really something that would require, well, any of them. It really required a cleaner. There were dishes piled up in my sink. The dishwasher had broken. I had to call somebody. I bet people have called it for that reason. Well, they call it for a cab, don't they? I'm drunk. You send an ambulance. Some woman was, I think she was let off, wasn't she, as these people usually are, for calling the police, for calling 999. I can't remember the exact number, so I'll make it up. 560 times in 3 days. Can you believe that? Mostly to get her home from the pub, because she was too drunk to make it on her own. But no, there was a carpet spilt on the road, on the elevated section by Hammersmith. Big rolls of carpet strewn across the highway they were. So I thought, oh, that's a bit dangerous, because swerving on the elevated section could make you swerve right off the edge, and then you'd find yourself in someone's living room. Switching the lights of your car off. So I thought I'd better report that. So I dialed 999. Yes, which service would you like? I don't know. Well, is it the fire engine's job? Is it the policeman's job? It's probably not the ambulance's job, although it could be if there was an accident meanwhile. And as I reported it down the phone, I was listening to LBC at the time, and I swear, within about 60 seconds, the very thing that I just reported was coming out the radio. Can you believe that? Staggered I was.
I once encountered a sofa on the motorway. No, it wasn't a motorway, it was a dark, very narrow A road late at night in the pitch black.
A sofa?
Yeah, 2 lanes, bombing along, suddenly grinds to a halt and everyone's moving out the outside lane. There was a sofa in the road. It must have fallen off the back of a lorry or something.
Right. Or somebody just thought, oh,
time to jettison this.
This is a nice place to have a little sit. 0845 6060 973. I want to talk about... Now, you can hold your head in your hands if you like, but somebody called Ross Clark wrote an interesting article about global warming in the Daily Express, which sort of crystallises everything I think... everything that I think a lot of people believe on this issue. So I'm going to read out a bit of that. I've also got the kind of hypocrisy of our complaints about China holding the Olympics and the protesters with the torch and the whole thing there, and our relationship with China and how it's all a bit skewed. So, a couple of those things, and whatever else is on your mind.
The LBC Mail 6060973.
Absolutely.
How low auction running at the minute? It's a 32-inch Samsung LCD TV. It's up for grabs. It's HD ready. It has built-in Freeview. You don't need another box to get all those extra channels. High-definition scaling included. To bid in this reverse auction, which means that the person with the lowest unique bid wins, then text your bid in pence to treble 821. If it was 87p, you would text LBC 87 to treble 821. Bids cost £1.50 plus your standard network rate. Lines closed to 7pm, Tuesday, 8th April. Bidders must be over 16. lbc.co.uk for full terms and conditions. So, China, they're in the news today, and the news just now. And they're going to have to... It kind of puts a mocker on the whole thing now, because it's going to go by plane, presumably, from France to America now, you know? All the way over to San Francisco. So... Are they going to keep it alight again? Because now they've extinguished it. Why do they have to extinguish it to take it on a bus? It was lit when they took it on a plane. That doesn't make any sense. Unless France is in the grip of the health and safety craziness that we've got here, and you have to extinguish it to get on an autobus. Anyway, we'll find out, I suppose. This is an article about China. This is Jim White. Jim White, I guess he writes for The Guardian, doesn't he? On a breakfast news programme yesterday morning, the presenter was interviewing a 16-year-old runner who was due to take part in the Olympic torch relay through the streets of London. So, he said, "Have you thought about whether you really should be taking part in this?" The girl paused for a moment to let the question sink in, then replied, "No, not really." Judging by the rather embarrassed timbre of his voice, the journalist was probably under editorial instruction. But of all the questions to ask a 16-year-old girl on what she might well reckon to be the proudest day of her life, this was undoubtedly the least productive. Here she was, an athlete herself, hoping that she might participate in the Games when they came to London in 4 years' time, and there was some bloke on the radio asking her if she'd considered whether her involvement in a bit of pageantry was in fact an endorsement of the Beijing regime. All she'd been thinking about up to that moment was how to stop her hand visibly shaking as she took possession of the torch, plus how she was going to squeeze her day into a GSE revision timetable. And now, suddenly, she was being put on the spot as if she were not merely the momentary keeper of the flame, but the upholder of the nation's conscience. Mind you, in comparison to what came later, Smith's this journalist's question was decidedly mild. Oh dear, what a giveaway, his name popped out. And I was trying to keep him anonymous all along. Not one of us, I hasten to add. For the anti-Chinese protesters filling the capital yesterday, anyone spotted carrying the torch was a target. They were subjected to the kind of treatment normally reserved for a visiting dictator or a recently released child molester. As angry pro-Tibetans tried to snatch the flame from the hands of television personalities, as Olympic heroes were roundly booed with every step. Did that happen? Were people booing them? Because all you saw on the TV was people being wrestled to the ground. Not much sound came with those pictures. But was the coverage complete? Because I was out working, at another place playing a lot of... Rock and roll! I was working, so I don't get telly there. Was it covered all the way through the, the entirety of the route?
It was all over Sky News all
day. Right, okay. So were people booing?
Much like you, I was working in a building where I could see it but not hear it.
Do you want to jump in here, Visa?
No comment. I didn't watch it either.
Right. Olympic heroes, so the only information we have is from this guy here, so we'll assume it's true. Olympic heroes were roundly booed with every step as the police held back the serried ranks of the argumentative and the angry. The force of the protest seemed to change direction. This was no longer about China, it was about collaboration. It was as if the runners themselves were morally reprehensible. It was as if they personally were pressing their spiked running shoes against the Dalai Lama's throat. Judging by the anger being expressed yesterday, it was as if sportspeople were the only ones consorting with the Chinese. Why is no one asking questions like this journalists of the banks opening up branches in Shanghai? Or of the workers hoping that Chinese finance will restart the West Midlands car production lines? Or of the owners of the outlet shopping malls across the country selling branded goods by the container load to Chinese tourists? How come there are no demonstrations outside the headquarters of those firms, sending waste plastic bottles out east in order to be processed by Chinese firms and turned into fleeces? Why aren't there picket lines forming outside the many British schools and universities opening lucrative franchises in Beijing, or the offices of British architects making fortunes in fees from reconstructing the Chinese capital in time for the Games this August? How come only sports is required to display a conscience? Indeed, given the complete lack of complaint over the years about any other form of contact between the Chinese, it would have been absurd for Gordon Brown not to stand on the steps of Number 10 to receive the flame, when much of the nation's economic well-being is predicated on getting into bed with Beijing at every turn. For him to make a protest by snubbing the torch would have been not just pointless, but completely illogical. In fact, you could argue that the presence of the Games in China will do more to highlight the country's human rights deficiencies than any single event in a decade. Without the embarrassing and chaotic scenes in London yesterday, few would have thought about Tibet, and its plight would certainly not have been leading the news bulletins all day. As it made its way past banner wavers and chanters yesterday, the torch showed us what it does best, cast light into the darkest corners. For that, the athletes carrying it should not be blamed, they should be applauded. It's about time somebody said something sensible about all this, because they've just been reporting the protests without making comment, or I think subtly they are making comment because they're siding with the protesters, kind of, unless they flip out and start trying to grab the torch from a Blue Peter presenter, and then they'll tut disapprovingly. But I think the general mood of the press is quite right too. We shouldn't be encouraging China with these dreadful Olympic Games. I want you to stop right now. If you've got something in your hand, if you're wearing something, unless you're completely naked and you're not holding anything, then you can take part in this tiny experiment. There is on you right now at least one thing that was made in China. Why did you buy it? Because it was cheap. Your MP3 player, made in China. Your phone, made in China. The radio that you're listening to this on, made in China. The sweatshirt that you bought for £15, made in China. The jeans that were $3.99, made in China. Everything is made in China. The rate of inflation in this country is so relatively low. I mean, I know they've fiddled it to make it look much lower than it actually is, but is relatively low because of all the tsunami wave of cheap goods that are coming to us from China. If we stop dealing with China, no one will be able to afford anything anymore. So this it's kind of it's real nonsense, really, insisting that, even suggesting that sports people should boycott the games. I mean, come on. They're just kids who are spending every waking moment training and fasting or the opposite of fasting, which is filling themselves with, massive amounts of protein so that they might compete on a relatively even basis with their compatriots out east who are probably filling themselves with, performance-enhancing drugs. Not our lot. Oh, no. But, it just seems ludicrous that those people are where we're drawing the line. Oh, we don't mind that our denim shirts are $2.99. And how do you think they're able to sell them at that price then? But we certainly don't want people running in a straight line in China. We've lost our minds. Enfield, hello, Tony.
Hello there. Yes, I'm just confused with all this nonsense, this anti-Chinese mania that's going on at the moment, because I suppose the first thing that comes to mind is Iraq. Human rights violations. How dare we? How dare we talk about human rights violations to the Chinese? Their first reply would be, say, Iraq. And, I mean, how would you address that? How would you come back at the Chinese and say, oh, yeah, but Iraq is different, or Northern Ireland? I mean, they just completed the railway on the roof of the world, as they call it, which was opened last year, which will enhance the culture and the economy of Tibet. But, not one word in the British press. And, of course, prior to the liberation of Tibet by the Chinese in 1959, whenever it was, I mean, it was run by warlords and lunatics, and there was slavery, there's all sorts of things going on. They were actually liberated by the Chinese, and I can't come up with one country where the Chinese, where we would stand back and call them an imperialist state. Where's their goals and gains of their imperialism? What country have they invaded and occupied and stuck their flag in? Where? We know the whole of the European countries have done it, and the United States, but not China. China's China, and I would argue that Tibet is a part of China.
Okay, thanks very much, Tony. I guess I did walk myself into this this avenue. It is my fault, but it just does seem bizarre that our economy, which is based so much on acquiring cheap everything from China, anything that is manufactured comes from China these days, that it does seem a bit bizarre that we will happily buy whatever it might be. I mean, think of anything. You'd be hard-pressed to think of anything that's not made in China. Ferrari, they don't make in China. Other than that, I can't think of anything. It seems bizarre that we happily go about buying cheaper goods just because we want we want a lot of stuff that we don't actually need, and we don't want to spend much money on it. So we're happy to pretend that we don't know where it comes from. But sportsmanship, that's where we draw the line. It's just crazy. Nothing makes any sense anymore, to me. I think it's just a factor of getting older and seeing more stuff. When you're younger and you haven't seen anything, everything kind of makes sense. You don't like it much, but it makes sense. Now, I don't know, nothing makes any sense to me anymore. Am I right?
As always.
Stop saying that. 8:44. LBC Travel with Karen Mercer.
We've had reports coming in that the...
And talking about inflation, by the way, the official inflation figures, quite low. They're like, I don't know, it's very small. The feeling that you get about inflation is that it's very high. And the difference in between the two can be explained. Tories have attacked what they call the inflation con. Official inflation figures cannot be trusted, David Cameron claimed recently. The Tory leader insisted that while the government says inflation is running at... Guess what the government says the inflation is running at?
2?
Yeah, how did you... 2? 2%!
Exactly 2.
That's what they say. 2%. For most families, the cost of living is going up and up. Mr Cameron has also pledged that the Tory government would cut taxes and reduce cost of living, blah, 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 don't they all? Oh, yeah, we'll give you more money in your pocket, just vote for us. And it just I don't think anybody is listening anymore. They all say the same bloomin' thing, and everyone's just switched off. I think we switched off about 20 years ago. Vote for me, and you'll be happier. Oh, yeah, right. Pull the other one. He has highlighted the figures, suggesting that the real rise of the cost of the daily staples is far outstripping the official figures. Well, he's right about that. These give a heavy weight to prices of products that consumers rarely buy, such as DVD players from China, which may offset rapidly rising prices of essential items. For example, food and drink prices rose 5% in January. In January alone, 5%. Utility bills increased by 3.5%. Pensioners, in particular, facing a much higher inflation rate as than the official figure because they spend so much of their income on utility bills. When Gordon and Alistair Darling, that is, claim that inflation is running at only 2% a year, you have to ask where on earth they do their shopping, said David Cameron. Well, they don't. And we pay for it when they do. His focus on families, financial hardship risks, increasing the pressure on him to offer clearer tax-cutting pledges. But Cameron said, I don't make short-term promises. That's the kind of old-fashioned spin that undermines trust in politics. Undermines trust in politics? Well, I think the boat's sailed there. I don't think there is any trust in politics anymore. But here's some of the inflation figures. The government says 2%. Petrol has gone up 21%. Now, that's a significant cost to most people, isn't it? Mortgages, 13%. Tax has increased now to 35% of the income tax for the average household. I would say that it's actually, if you take all taxes together, it's way over 50 now, isn't it? It's something approaching like 65%, which is kind of a depressing thought, really, isn't it? No wonder people don't bother going to work anymore. Food up 6% year on year. Energy up 15%. Council tax up 4%. Salaries 3%. So petrol up 21%. Salaries up 3%. So that's the inflation lie, if you will, except for stuff that you buy from China, and that's is basically what has allowed the authorities to tell us that prices aren't really going up that much. A catalogue just recently got, I think it's Argos. They just brought out a new catalogue, and some people at the Times on the business pages compared the prices today with what they were in the 1970s. Now, you'd think there'd be a lot more, but actually, they're a lot less. With petrol racing to a record of £1.10 a litre, and, well, actually, it's, where I feel, it's £1.9.9. That's not racing to £1.10. That is £1.10. It's actually quite staggering. You put the nozzle in your car, and the little digits, they fly up so quickly. And the price is more in number than the amount of litres you've put in your car. That was a bit of a shocker when that first happened, wasn't it? When it went over £1, it's like, well, hang on a minute, these numbers are upside down. The one that's the money, it should actually be the litres. Awful. Anyway, but when you think of how they extract it, it is actually very cheap. And when you consider how much of it is in tax, I mean, it's like I was saying last week, you've got to bore a hole into the ground. I'm boring a hole into this show. You have to squirt the oil up your little pipe, collect it in your lorry, take it to a boat, ship the boat across to the refinery plant, and they do whatever it is that they do there. Big machines that go whir. And then you've got to stick it in lorries, and you've got to drive it across continents, and then you squirt it in your car. I mean, all of that, and it still costs about £1. Well, take tax off, it's about 30p a litre. How do they do it for so little money? Don't you think that's extraordinary? Water is more expensive than that. Yes, Nick, you're absolutely right.
As always.
With petrol racing to a record £1.10 a litre and the price of a pint nudging £4, that's right, a pint costs more. Consumers could be forgiven for harking back to the days when flares were in fashion and the hostess trolley was a must-have. The hostess trolley. Hands up who has one of those. No one.
I saw one on one of those TV cooking shows a few weeks ago.
Really?
It was horrifying.
Are they making a comeback? Oh, maybe it's just the latest very cool thing.
In the 70s,
oh, okay. Because they try to make flares have a little bit of a comeback. You know, every now and again I'll look at with despondency at in my wardrobe, announce that I have nothing to wear, and flounce out again. The only things that are in there, as a kid, as I say a kid, I mean, sort of, in my 20s, the money I threw away on clothes. If it said, Comme des Garçons, 50% off, I don't care what it was, I was going to buy it. And they're all hanging there, and I tried them on in the shop, and then never again did they touch my frame. What a giant waste of money clothes are. I'm never buying another item of apparel again. Anyway, where was I? A new survey shows that as far as the cost of everyday household goods on the high street are concerned, shoppers have never had it so good. According to the accountants PricewaterhouseCoopers, the prices of everything from a kettle to a camera have tumbled by nearly 50% since the early 1970s. That is incredible. In about 40 years, the prices of things have, I mean, logically, you'd think that they'd have escalated out of all proportion to, the way in which they've improved. But they've actually gone down. Don't you find that surprising?
Well, no, because technology makes things cheaper to produce, doesn't it?
At Argos, prices have fallen 47% in real terms since Richard Tompkins, the founder of Green Shield Stamps Empire, launched a chain in 1973 with a 250-page catalogue. Right, OK. This is what they're comparing it with, the Green Shield Stamps catalogue. We used to do that. Green Shield stamps. Nothing like that anymore. It's all little plastic cards that they tell you that your points are on. Whether they are or not, we don't know. A fan heater in the original catalogue, priced at £7.60, would cost £51 in today's money, given the impact of inflation over the past 35 years. A similar product today retails at £12.99. It should be £51, retails at £12.99. The cost of typical clothing lines, such as blouses and children's T-shirts, have tumbled by an average of 48% since 1988. The biggest price cuts have come in the past decade as retailers have taken advantage of improvements in technology, the manufacture of products overseas, China, and most recently the depreciation of the dollar against the pound. That's hardly any reason at all why prices have gone down. It's all about China. Mark Hudson, the PricewaterhouseCoopers head of retail and consumer, said, "What we purchase now compared to the 1970s is much cheaper. That's why you see 4 or 5 televisions in a house now. Before, the family would have had one black and white TV set and it would have been a luxury." That's right. 5 televisions people have, and they're poor. You should never have a TV in the bedroom, by the way. Ever. By which I mean at all. You've got a TV in your bedroom, haven't you, Victoria?
I do, but it's hidden in a cupboard.
Well, what's the point of that?
Well, I can close the doors on it. So it's not a distraction, it doesn't always have to be on.
But you could close the door on it if it was in the living room.
Well, no, because mine isn't behind doors in the living room.
Why do you need a TV in your bedroom?
Well, I don't, but it's my old black and white portable telly, and
right.
it's got a lot of history with me. I've always had it.
Plus, if you hang on to it for a good long while, the Victoria and Albert Museum will be interested. That's what I'm thinking about mine. Or you could sell it at Camden Market for a fortune.
Well, mine is old enough never to have seen the likes of a remote before.
Right. Remotes. Well, children used to be remotes. We don't want to watch this, do we, Nicholas? And you'd have to get up off the sofa and trudge to the TV and click the thing and then wait there at the television to receive approval of the channel that you were watching. Can you imagine if there then was 100 channels like there are now? You'd never sit down again. At least there were only 3 channels in them thar days, and you'd only have to be there, for tutting. Oh, come on. Because you didn't want to go back to the sofa before you'd got the OK for that channel, because you might have to get back up and go and turn it again, which was the last thing you wanted. You know, that smacked of exercise. Yeah, kids used to be remotes. Thank goodness for the infrared waves and batteries. 90% of the deflation that we've seen in the last 10 years, around 90% of the deflation we have seen has been in the last 10 years. Manufacturing costs have come down. We've also benefited from an intense competition among retailers and the increasing importance of the internet. Consumers have so much price information at their fingertips. He hasn't mentioned China in this article, but I absolutely guarantee you it's all down to them. The good news is that we believe that prices will continue to fall. There's a lot of people with products to sell in the current economic climate. In the face of a recession, it's a great time to be earning money, because the sale will last from now until the end of time, as far as the current estimates go. Is it that time already? Good grief. LBC 97.3.
Any good business has a fight.
Evening, dear. You can talk to me.
Giselle Marbell.
Evening, Nick.
How are you?
How are you, my dear?
Oh, I'm all right, thanks.
Well, I was listening to you talking about inflation. That was a very interesting article. Did you say that was in today's Times?
No, it was. I've been carrying that around for a little while now. That was in last Monday's.
Oh, Times?
In the business section of the Times, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll look for it in the library then, because it's very interesting. No, I was just watching inflation and I'm driving home. You're on the hands-free.
Yeah.
And driving from Camden through into Hampstead. Camden petrol station, £1 5p, 0.99. 1.5 miles later, Hampstead petrol station, £1 12p, 0.99.
That's the most expensive I've heard. 112.
112.99. Can you believe that?
0.99. They're even down to hundredths of a penny now. Of a pound, rather.
Yes, a mile and a half apart, 7p apart.
That is outrageous.
Well, that's inflation.
Well, I suppose that's Hampstead.
That's Hampstead. There you go.
All right. Well, thanks for the bad news, Giselle.
It is, yes.
All right.
I'm lucky. I've got a petrol station near me that does it for £1 and 4p, so that's good.
Right, that is good, yeah.
Yeah.
OK, well, keep that one to yourself.
Okay.
All right, cheers. 0845 6060 973. I can remember a little while ago, it was 50 quid to fill up the car. Now it's 60. Either my tank's got bigger, or there's something dreadful happening at the pumps. And of course, the Diana ruling has just been announced. Do you have that thing up here? Is this what this is? Hang on a minute. No, we did have it. Is it under LBC? One moment, please. Princess Diana was unlawfully killed due to the gross negligence of driver Henri Paul and the paparazzi, an inquest jury has found. The jury reached the same verdict for her companion Dodi Al-Fayed. The jury also specified that Mr. Paul's drink driving and a lack of seatbelts contributed to their deaths. Mr. Al-Fayed's father, Mohammed, refused to accept the verdict, as will almost everybody else that's reading this. Well, you know that they will. It doesn't matter how many times that they investigate this. Unless you come up with the answer that we were expecting, then we're just going to go, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you want to know how much it cost?
Hang on a minute, I'll probably get to that. The jury returned joint verdicts of unlawful killing through grossly negligent driving or gross negligence manslaughter, whatever that is. The inquest into the Paris crash in 1997 that killed the couple and Mr. Paul lasted 6 months. The total cost to the British taxpayer, are you ready? £10 million. What? Princess Diana and Dodi Fayed were killed when Mr. Paul crashed the hired Mercedes into a hired Mercedes. So this wasn't an armour-plated... it wasn't their own, right? I thought it was. I thought they were in an armour-plated Merc, which made it all the more odd that it crumpled so comprehensively. A statement read on behalf of Mr. Al-Fayed said that the verdicts would come as a blow to millions of his supporters around the world. Mr. Fayed has millions of supporters around the world. Does he? That's news to me. He's millions of customers, right enough. I don't think that customers and supporters are necessarily the same thing, although perhaps he's more popular than I thought. As he emerged from the court, he said the most important thing is it is murder. So he's not happy either. And on and on and on it goes. And it's not actually going to solve anything in anybody's mind. Isn't that right, Paul?
Oh, hello. Hello, Nick.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah, it's Paul. May I just take this opportunity to say that you're the chief for radio presenters?
Oh, thanks very much.
Okay. I was thinking about the Diana inquiry. Some people seem to be saying that it's a waste of time and money.
Yes.
Bearing in mind, I suppose, they may have a point because it didn't really tell us anything that we didn't know before that I'm aware of.
Right.
I mean, there are people depending on these kind of things. There are millions of lawyers out there languishing in poverty.
Well, yeah.
Through lack of work and that kind of thing, you know? I mean, their families are going hungry.
I know. Don't we all feel sorry for lawyers?
That's right, yeah. I mean, who would support them if it weren't for pointless inquiries like this?
Right.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I find it very... Excuse me. I find it very difficult to drum up any sympathy for lawyers.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose it's not their fault, but I mean...
It is their fault, Paul. With open eyes, they went into that profession.
Yeah, of course.
They only have themselves to blame.
Oh, I suppose they only did what they thought was for the best.
I suppose so, yeah. They only did what their parents told them to do. Yeah. They had a choice between being a doctor and a lawyer, and they thought, doctors, it's icky.
Yeah, and it's a lot of work.
A lot of work, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't pay well. It pays quite well, but I suppose there's a limit to it. But yeah,
but there's no limit to the amount that a lawyer can earn. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It depends on the lawyer, I suppose, doesn't it? I mean, our glorious previous leader, Tony Blair.
Well, yes, that's right. Mm-hmm.
And look where that got us.
I know.
What a lovely country we're living in now.
It's all their fault.
Yeah, that's my opinion. Yeah. Anyway. Well, apart from being Scottish as well. I hope you're not Scottish.
A little bit.
No, well, yeah. I've got a distant Scottish in myself, but
right.
I didn't mean that I wanted the entire government to be Scottish.
Well, no.
But I think I've gone off the point a bit.
A little bit?
Yeah.
But it was about the Diana inquiry.
Yeah, sorry, the Diana inquiry, yeah, that's right, yeah. The other thing if Diana was worried about having been killed in a car crash, because apparently she'd said that she'd heard that she was going to be killed in a car crash.
That's right.
Wear a seatbelt.
Yes. That would have made sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, only putting myself in her position, I would have worn a seatbelt myself if I was worried about that.
Right.
But then maybe I'm not royalty, so I suppose I wouldn't know.
I take your word for it, Paul, that you're not royalty.
Thanks
very
much.
Thanks.
You are right. The world's going mad.
It is, yeah. Thanks, Paul.
Okay, cheers.
This won't have solved a thing. Come tomorrow, it'll be all over the papers, pages 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, transcripts and pictures and a whole lot, and people will read it or not, as the case may be, and still think, oh, it was a put-up job. And I can't be the only one who, I do tend towards agreeing with conspiracy theories, partly because I don't think there's any amount of negative that you can portray the leaders of the free world in. No, hang on a minute. I'll rephrase that, because I was going to get locked towards the end of that sentence. Much like a pipe gets blocked. So I'll unblock it before I even start down that little route. I think that there's no amount of there's no negative portrayal that you could paint of the leaders of the free world that they haven't. I can't even finish that sentence either. You finish it for me, James.
You can't underestimate how
venal and nasty and unpleasant they are. Yes, thank you. Do you want to swap jobs? I'll sit in there and do whatever it is you do.
Not a lot.
Not a lot, no. Well, me either. I'm just speaking. Anyone can do that. Yes, no, I firmly believe that there isn't anything that you could imagine that they could do that they haven't already at least thought of. It's 0845 6060 973. Gordon Brown, of course, was in the papers because he had a makeup malfunction. And I only saw this in one paper. Was this widely reported on Sunday? It got on the front page of the Sunday Times. There's a picture of him, and it looks as though his makeup artiste has drawn a orange dot on his forehead. Not a small one, mind, but a huge orange circle on his forehead. On the day that Gordon Brown turned orange, it emerged that he had hired a former BBC producer as his personal spin doctor to put an end to the visual gaffes that have dogged his time as Prime Minister. Now, is this the same chap that said that this was the age of spin was over? He wasn't interested in any of that anymore, and it was back to politics of the old school, and it was less show business, which is what his the previous incumbent had was mired us in for the last 10 years. It wasn't politics with Tony, it was all about show business. And you only really that only really sinks home when you look back on it. He kind of floated above the whole mess, as though it didn't exist, because he was great at show business. Gordon Brown? Not so much. And so he gets sired with the blame for the last 10 years, and he just has come blinking into the, the full light of day, realising that this is a poisoned chalice that he's been after for the last, for his entire life. It's the chalice with the palace has the brew that is true. Not the flagon with the dragon. I can't remember how the rest of it goes. Anyone remember Danny Kaye?
No.
On the day that Gordon Brown turned orange, it emerged that he had hired a former BBC producer as his personal spin doctor to put an end to the visual gaffes that have dogged his time as Prime Minister. Nicola Burden, 35, has been told to stop the embarrassing photographs and television footage that risked turning Brown into a figure of fun. Fun? I don't think anybody has used the word fun and Gordon Brown in the same sentence previously. The appointment of a gaffe monitor has not come a moment too soon for the Brown inner circle. Yesterday, the Prime Minister was pictured at a summit of world leaders with a bright orange blob of makeup on his forehead. And to get the full picture, you have to remember that the rest of his face is like a Daz white. Not just white, but like dead white. It's as though they've tried to make a cadaver come to life, but then got called away just as they started for a tea break. The photographs taken at the Progressive Governance Summit, attended by Thabo Mbeki, and who is the South African president, suggested that Brown might have deserted his makeup artist before she had finished. It also looks like his makeup woman only had Cuprinol Orange, said the fashion director of the Sunday Times. Burton's role was to work with photographers and TV crews to ensure that Brown's public appearances go more smoothly. Brown's aides have made a virtue of his spin-free approach, but last month's visit by Nicolas Sarkozy, the French president, brought awkward scenes. For example, Brown was pictured clumsily kissing the French president's glamorous wife, Carla, with his mouth wide open. Oh! And Carla Bruni, on her face, visually, she was going, moi, moi. Internally, she was going... 9:15. LBC Travel with Karen Mercer.
There are really big problems on the M.
The number 0845 6060 973. You don't have to talk about what I'm talking about. I mean, don't wait for me to say you must talk about this. You know, just anything that... it's a chit-chat, innit? If there's something on your mind, then I'll be happy to hear from you. But I was just talking about this blob that was photographed on Gordon Brown's frowning visage, and the Mandrake column, which is like the sort of vaguely scurrilous gossip column in the Telegraph, talked about that today. Mandrake wonders if the makeup girl who left an incongruous splodge of orange slap in the middle of Gordon Brown's forehead at the Progressive Governance Summit in London wasn't exacting revenge upon him. He tends to be uncommunicative, if not downright unpleasant, one woman who attended to him recently told me. He seems to hate close physical contact, as I would imagine would people in close physical contact with him would. But it's a necessity, of course, as we powder him, she says. There's never any excuse for being short-tempered. We have a job to do, as he has. This is in stark contrast to Tony Blair, who, so the late makeup artist Annie Spears had told me, purred like a cat as she beautified him, and particularly appreciated it when she brushed his hair. She asked him once if he had minded being made up like an actor. Not at all, he replied. I always wanted to be one. Well, it's like I said. He was in show business. And you only come to realise the extent of his show businessery when he's gone, and his replacement, who is like his inverse, the negative to his plus. How lack of the lack of his show business credentials comes to the fore. And you think, blimey, yes. You can get away with anything if you go on daytime TV, smile a bit and drop a few glottal stops. Now, one thing that I did warn you about earlier on was that I might do something about global warming, but there was an article in the Express today which I thought was quite good on this subject. Are you warm? Have you been warm when you left the house over the last few days?
At the moment I'm freezing because the aircon's gone haywire, but...
Right, if the aircon wasn't on, you'd be freezing anyway, because it is bloomin' freezing outside, right? And it's all thanks to global warming. Is it just my imagination, says Ross Clark in the Daily Express, or is the global warming lobby a little more subdued this April than last? Sunday morning snow was like last year's warm sunshine. Just one more example of the notoriously fickle spring, which can roast you one week and freeze you the next. What's the week's forecast like? I'll look it up. Yeah, I'll look it up right now. You cede control unto me. Stop moving it. I'll kill you.
That's not very nice.
Just telling it. Oh, blimey, that's awful.
Oh, that's that useless symbol, which basically means we don't know, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's a cloud with a raindrop coming out of it, and the sun's rays coming from behind it. So it's exactly right. Yeah, we've got no idea.
There's not going to be a cyclone. We know that much.
No, we don't. Whether they say it or not is neither here nor there. Over the next 5 days, it's going to be raining with a bit of sunshine on Tuesday, raining with a bit of sunshine on Wednesday, raining with a bit of sunshine on Thursday and Friday and Saturday. So, in other words, it's going to be like tomorrow for as far ahead as we can see. And the temperature's going to be more or less the same. Awful. Well, summer doesn't start till... when? Second week in August?
And ends in the third.
Yeah. Only 3 more months to go. Woohoo! That's the thing when the clocks go forward. You think, oh, blessed relief, summer is here. No. We got a long road to go yet. Victoria's looking at me like, no, say it isn't true. It is true. You're going to be having the heating on full blast for the next 12 weeks, believe me.
I only have a little gas fire already. You know, the prices of gas. I just can't afford more winter.
Mm-hmm.
Stop whining.
He says Sunday morning snow was I read that bit. Ever since the hot, dry summer of 1995, one of the lobby's most consistent predictions has been that the south of England would suffer increasingly hot and arid summers. Since then, we've had one hot summer, 2003, when we never heard the last of global warming, and several cool, damp ones, when the usual lobby was rather more quiet. Then last year, we had one of the wettest summers on record, which caused devastating floods. Subtly rebranding global warming as climate change, Environmental Secretary Hilary Benn, among others, warned us grimly that we would have to expect more devastating summer floods in future, even though wetter summers contradict what models of global warming have been predicting for more than a decade. So any change, no matter what it is, they'll say, oh, well, that's global warming, until it's not warm anymore, and then they'll say, oh, that's climate change. They did, he's right about that. They did sort of switch, didn't they, midstream. Global warming, global warming, global warming. And then people started raising a finger, no, hang on a minute, it's not that warm. In fact, I'm freezing here. So, oh yeah, you're right, yeah, okay, well let's call it something else. Climate change. Then no one can, that's almost uncomplainable about. I mean, if climate's always changing, it changes from night to day. It's always on the move, isn't it?
Do you remember the big El Nino thing?
El Nino.
Wasn't that supposed to be responsible as well?
Yeah, El Nino, and then El Niña, its younger sister, which I believe was responsible for our wet summer last year, wasn't it? And I say that as speaking as someone who has no idea what he's talking about. I think it was El Niña that was responsible last year. I bet that you're itching to look that up on the internet to see what it means. It's a big no all round. She looked at me like, oh, shall I? Nah. How long have I got? 25:30 out at 29:55. Okay, set your watches. Hilary Benn, among others, warned us grimly that we'd have to expect more devastating summer floods in future, even though wetter summers contradict what models of global warming have been predicting for more than a decade. This is not the only respect in which predictions of a heating planet have proved inaccurate. When the hypothesis first became fashionable among scientists in the 80s, one of the first disasters was supposed to be the inundation of the low-lying Maldives. You know, they're those places that the fancy people go and get bored out of their minds living in a room on stilts. You know, you see those pictures of fancy holidays abroad, and it'll be a hut on stilts in a string of huts on stilts. You're looking at me like I'm crazy. You must have seen those pictures. Huts on stilts. Yes?
Yeah, I'm vaguely getting a picture, yeah.
Oh, come on, Victoria. You must have seen the huts on stilts.
No.
Are you kidding me? The Maldives, these countries, it's a string of islands, which are basically just like little bumps of sand in the sea. And because they are. And because there's no, because they're very, very small, there's nowhere to actually put a hotel. Stop laughing at me. Laughing at me. So there's no roads or anything like that. It's just a bump of sand.
You've really tickled her now.
It's a bump, Victoria, of sand. And so there's nowhere to put the hotel, so they stick the hotel out in the water. On stilts. I can hear her through 3 panes of glass. Her mic's off and I can still hear her laugh. They do, they stick them on stilts. And then people go out there and they think, oh, this will be fantastic. I've seen it on the pictures. There's a little bump of sand. My room's on stilts. What could be better than that? And then they get to the little hotel room and they look around and they think, boring. There's nothing to do. Nothing to do at all. And so it would be a sweet relief all round if the Maldives were covered with water. People were praying for it. Even people who live in the Maldives were praying for it. Please end this dreary life, they were saying. And apparently the reverse has happened. In fact, research by Stockholm University has revealed that sea levels around the islands have fallen in the last 20 years. They haven't gone up, they've gone down, Victoria. It's actually getting worse. Can you believe that? The bumps are getting bigger.
I don't know what's in her tea, but
I know, yeah. I'll have a couple of pints of that. If a majority of British scientists subscribe to the theory that the Earth is undergoing significant heating due to man-made carbon emissions, it's hardly surprising. If you're trying to get public cash for climate research in Britain, you're more or less restricted to applying to the Tyndall Centre, a government-funded body that doles out funds for studies in the area. If you read its website, you can look at its mission statement. It, quotes, brings together scientists, economists, engineers and social scientists who together are working to develop sustainable responses to climate change. That's their mission statement. In other words, anyone who wants money out of it first has to acknowledge that climate change is happening. It's a giant business. So if as a scientist you're working on climate change and say you wanted to disprove it, well, you've got no chance of getting any money because first you have to agree that it exists. And then they'll give you money so that you can show that it exists. So basically they're just employing people to stand up and give them a large round of applause. You cannot be a refusenick on this issue, otherwise you get frozen out. No money for you. Which means you won't be going to the Maldives, Victoria. She's keen to go. Flipping through a brochure as I speak. 97.3 LBC, it's 9:30.
Extremely well.
You bet your life it is. Here's a call in Beckenham. Hello, Jim.
Hi, good evening, Nick.
Jim.
Hi, talking about this global warming nonsense. I remember when the hole in the ionosphere was a big threat to mankind. We were all going to fry with ultraviolet rays and God knows what.
Yeah.
And every day the hole in the ionosphere was... I remember it was one time getting as big as the size of Wales daily.
Well, I thought it was as big as Australia.
Well, yeah, well, it was supposed to be massive. What's happened? I don't feel any warmer. I'm freezing. So I'll bring back the hole and let's put a nuclear bomb up there and blow a big hole in it so as to let the heat through.
That's an excellent idea, Jim. Finally, someone's making sense on this show.
And how long before Gordon Brown comes up with a £10 a week tax to pay for global warming or to pay for to repair it?
To repair the hole?
No, just to investigate global warming. It's just another way of making money. As you say, it's a big business.
It is, yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
That's all it is. It's just natural phenomenon. The Earth goes through different stages. The biggest effect on the ionosphere was cows letting off wind. Now, cows and animals have been letting off wind since
time immemorial. Say it.
And it's just natural. Same with, I can even go back further than that. I can go back to when radioactivity was going to destroy us all. But the fact is that natural radioactivity is a lot higher than the restrictions that are put on man-made radioactivity. Stuff in the ground causes more radioactive... You know, when you've got a Geiger counter, you get a much higher reading from some natural vicinities than you do from things that man does. So it's all just a big con. It's a big industry to frighten us, keep us cowed.
Here we are with the cow again.
Cows again, yeah.
And with, in the respect of the cows, the flatulence, who smelt it, dealt it.
But it really is, and we fall for it. Every time you get a few days hot weather, we have a hose pipe ban. Who can afford to use a hose now with the water rates as they are? You know, it's just ridiculous.
All right, well, thanks for laying that out for us, Jim.
Right, thanks.
Cheers, mate. Ta-ra. There's a little bit of this article to go, and some of the points that Jim just brought up are covered in this. It's because climate research has been politicised that we should be sceptical about what it claims to tell us. True, there's been a warming trend in the world's climate since the mid-70s, but prior to that, there had been a 30-year cooling trend, by the end of which scientists were propounding the theory that the Earth was to descend into another ice age. That's absolutely right. I remember that from my childhood. It was going to be bloomin' freezing. It was going to be ice for as far as the eye could see. A longer-term warming trend in the global climate began following the mini-ice age of the mid-18th century, when the Thames in London froze over on a number of occasions. And you go to the National Gallery and you can see pictures of it. People skating around in their funny attire, eating, listen to me, eating, I shouldn't have a show on the radio, it's a disgrace. Eating their little sausages or whatever disgusting fare they used to have in them days. I just said them days. Well, I've descended into ye olde English speak. That's exactly how they used to speak when they were skating on the Thames. Back in the medieval warm period of the 12th and 13th centuries, on the other hand, monasteries as far north as Northumberland were producing good quantities of wine. The warmth of the medieval ages cannot possibly have been caused by carbon emissions, which were negligible at the time. History shows that the Earth's climate has constantly fluctuated by natural means. But you would never guess that from listening to the environmental lobby. When the medieval period proved inconvenient, activists tried to remove it from the climactic history books. The scientific models used to frighten us over man-made global warming make scant account of influences on global temperatures other than man-made carbon emissions, whether from changes in solar radiation. And by the way, there was that big solar event that did you see that tsunami on the sun? Try to surf that wave, I double dare you. Yeah, there was a video of a tsunami on the sun. It was huge. Stop laughing at me, Victoria.
Set it off again.
This show is not funny. The scientific models used to frighten... solar radiation, natural emissions of gases. Any response there? Yes, she's broken up again. From volcanoes or simply from randomness. Computer models, of course, only give results as good as the assumptions put into them. Not only that, but their predictions tend to not get reported when they give the wrong result. 3 years ago, the largest ever computer simulation of the Earth's climate, a study called climateproduction.net, which utilised the computers of thousands of volunteers, was reported as claiming that the Earth might warm by a shocking 11 centigrade by the end of this century. What the reports didn't say was that the computer model had been run 2,000 times, each one using slightly different assumptions. Only one of these runs suggested global temperatures would rise by 11 centigrade. At the other extreme, 3 runs suggested that the temperatures would actually fall. Isn't that incredible? This is the first time I've heard that, because I heard I was aware that they did this experiment, they hooked everybody's computer and they crunched the figures, and they came up with this shocking statistic. Come to find out, there was 2,000 results, and they just picked the one that they liked the best. It's like religious fanatics. They'll comb through the book of their religion and pick and choose the bits, the instructions that they like, and disregard all of the rest. And kill anybody who disagrees with their conclusions. That huge variation in results says all you need to know about the science behind climate change. So little is understood that long-term predictions are a nonsense. If we can't currently predict what the weather is 5 days ahead, why does anybody believe that we can predict the climate 100 years from now? That is an excellent point. I bet if you took the weather forecast from I guess it's the meteorological office, isn't it, the Met Office? That 5-day forecast I just read out. I bet if you took that and wrote it down in 5 days we came back to it, I bet it'd be 100% wrong. It's saying raining and cloudy and sunny. Well, that's everything. Let's talk about hedging your bets. Never mind the inadequacy of the science, he says. This is, by the way, Ross Clark in the Express today. I don't know who he is. Just some bloke. Never mind the inadequacy of the science, he says. The global warming lobby will continue to put out ever grimmer prognoses of mankind's future because there's too many people with a vested interest in the belief that mankind is causing massive disruption to the Earth's climate. For the government, it's a justification to suck us dry through green taxes and an excuse for its failure to maintain proper flood defences. For scientists, going cap in hand to the Tyndall Centre, it's a career. For Al Gore, it's a Nobel Prize. Do they give him a Nobel Prize? A Nobel what prize? For science? What do they give him it for? Not peace.
I've got a feeling it was science.
The Nobel Prize for science?
Or
he's not a scientist.
Delivering science to the masses, maybe. I'm making this all up, I don't know.
Well, it's on the World Wide Wait. You could find out if you were of a mind. Not remotely interested. He's busy.
It's over there.
It's over there, yeah. Where are we? For Al Gore, it's a Nobel Prize and a chance to pontificate on the international stage following his failure to win the US presidential election in 2000. Hey, Hillary's going down. She ain't going to make it. She's clinging on desperately to the vestiges of power, but she's not going to get her hands on the full reins, is she? Just doesn't look that way. It's going to be Barack Obama and the old geezer whose name no one can remember.
McCain.
I mean, I know it's not down to us to remember it, but if we can't remember it, then you'd have to assume that 50% of the American population don't know who he is either. I mean, if you walked out into the street and asked people who the Prime Minister of this country is right now, in 100 people, I would say 10%. There would be at least a 10% failure rate. What do you reckon? Let's do it. I can't even get you to lean across and look at the internet, let alone...
It's cold.
Exactly. He has achieved the status, this is Al Gore, of environmental prophet, in spite of the irresponsible scaremongering in his film An Inconvenient Truth. I haven't seen that yet. I think that's out on Sky this month. You seen that? Inconvenient Truth? He claimed that sea levels could rise 20 feet in the near future, and even the most zealous climate scientists say this would take several millennia. Whether his career will be sustainable much longer is another question. This year, China suffered one of its worst winters in decades. The eastern and western seaboards of the US also had savage snowfalls, and, most remarkably of all, temperatures in Syria plunged to minus 16 as parts of the Middle East, especially Saudi Arabia, were covered in snow. Snow! These were all early signs, possibly, that the warming trend in Earth's climate over the past 30 years has come to an end. Much as the global warming lobby will try to bend its theory by claiming that this extreme cold is somehow a sign of the Earth warming up, the rest of us may show rather less patience when being lectured about global warming in plunging temperatures. I think they do actually say that, don't they? In fact, one scientist was asked, well, you know, the global warming, yeah, but it's bloomin' freezing out here. And he said, yes, well, of course, the temperature's getting colder is a result of global warming.
What?
How do you work that out?
It's because of the North Atlantic Drift.
Oh, the drift, right. That's one of my favourite drifts, as a matter of fact. What's that, then?
Well, what it is it's a current in the ocean that's bringing hot air from the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, not here it ain't.
Well, it does during the summertime.
I don't think so.
Brings it to the UK, and global warming actually affects the drift, so it diverts around us, and we end up getting colder air. Because really, have you ever thought that we're in sort of line with Russia, as in the height of the world? We're quite high up, and yet we have warmer weather than Russia.
The height of the world?
Or latitude, as some
right.
Yeah, that's it, latitude. You wouldn't tell I had an A-level in geography.
No.
But, yes, so it's the North Atlantic Drift that's keeping us warm, because we're only a little island, and technically we should be colder, and if we have global warming, it affects the drift, and we have colder air.
See, once again, you're being told that global warming means it's going to get colder. I'm sorry, but that just won't wash. And you can Atlantic drift me until you're blue in the face. Warmth means warmth. It's cold.
By the way, our intrepid research team downstairs informed me it was the Nobel Peace Prize.
The Nobel Peace Prize? Peace Prize? Well, he's not bringing peace, is he?
He's making a lot of noise.
I don't understand that. They have Nobel Prizes for science, don't they?
Yeah.
Thanks, Karen. Stand by.
And, well, I don't get it. The Nobel Peace Prize. Mind you, there's been some strange recipients of the Nobel Peace Prize. Bruce Lee. Who could see that one coming? It's 9:44. Here's Travel with Karen Mercer.
Don't use the M3.
Here is, a chap on the M3. Oh dear, I am sorry. Hello, Jim.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm alright. Are you stuck?
Very, very stuck. But I have a lovely view.
What?
Of the view of a National Express coach.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just thinking, I'd rather be bored in the Seychelles right now in a small little room with nothing to do.
Than bored on the M3?
Yeah.
Well, you make a good point, yeah.
It's very, very, very boring on the M3 and absolutely nothing's happening here. Well, I tell a lie, the queue's getting longer.
So you switched your engine off? You can't, can you? It's just freezing outside.
It is freezing outside. I did try the save some petrol, stop global warming, turn the engine off, but no, I was getting cold.
Well, I think
like the country in global warming.
Yeah. Well, I think keep your engine running. In fact, you should just keep your engine running permanently, even when you get home, because this global warming doesn't seem to have taken off to any great extent. Well, I hope that you get out there soon.
So do I. Anyway, carry on. You're doing a great job.
All right, thanks, Jim. That sounded like a man at the end of his tether, and you can understand why. People have been stuck in that for 3 hours. Why? Did they say why people have been stuck in that?
Yes.
Go on.
I'm just checking it here.
I believe there was a coach fire or something, wasn't
Really?
there?
Coach fire and fuel spillage. Queues back to before the M25.
For 3 hours?
It's grim.
There does seem to be an obsession with shutting down roads in this country rather than an obsession with getting traffic moving again.
Well, I understand that, certain scenes, they have to see what happened and investigate.
Yeah.
But what I thought was a great idea is what they have in Australia, which is the middle metal railings, the central reservation. They can actually unlock them and open them up and turn people round and actually get them off the motor, turn them around so they're going in the other direction, so they can at least get them off the motorway, so they're not stuck there. Because I understand that you need to, if there's casualties and things, you need to close the road to deal with it. But in Australia, they actually at least get people off.
Right.
And I've only ever seen that once happen, and that was once on the M25, but that was about 7 years ago, and I was in that queue, and they was turning people round, but I've never seen it again now. People just sit there in the cold.
Fuming, yeah. Wishing their life away, that's true. Croydon, hello, Danny.
How you doing, all right?
All right, thanks.
I'm really enjoying your show tonight,
Oh, thanks.
Really enjoying it. I'm just ringing up a couple of points, really. I think it's very important that we separate global fast warming and ecology and recycling. At the moment, they're kind of in the same trolley at the same time. But
you're right.
I think ecology, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's not keep wasting this. Let's not keep filling the ground full of stuff that won't waste away for another few hundred years.
Right.
Let's be, conservative with our resources, and it kind of makes sense where global warming doesn't. I know David Icke is a complete nutbar, but his whole idea about the way that news is spread and the way that we believe what we believe is quite interesting.
What does he say?
Well, he believes in something they call them repeaters. So, only a few people at the Illuminati make decisions or make observations on certain things. And what happens is the news, the media, and other people, he calls it the art of repeating.
Yeah.
It's repeated over and over again. Well, global warming is happening. How do you know? Well, it's getting warmer every year, isn't it? Well, I suppose it is.
Received wisdom, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, he calls it the repeaters.
Yeah.
And in a way, I can kind of see that, I can kind of see how that would work. And what really bugs me as well is the way they say, it's been the hottest 4 days in a row since records began. And you think, wow. And then you think, hang on a minute, records only began about 120 years ago. And you think, it's only in this country we were keeping records. You think about somewhere like the States and very young nations, you know, or some countries haven't even got any records. You know, what I'm trying to say is, you know, the reason that global warming happens is ever so slight shift in the axis, the way the Earth sits against the sun. And that's why we get ice ages and peaks. It's predicted we're at the peak now of the hottest time it'll ever, you know, one of the hottest periods.
Well, I thought it was quite interesting that the cold period lasted for 30 years. When global cooling was around in the sort of mid-70s, it came to an end, a 30-year cooling trend. Now we've had coming to the end of a 30-year warming cycle, and it seems to be getting cooler. In fact, haven't scientists said that this year, not just in answer to what you were saying, Victoria, that the warming might actually make us, in particular, cooler, but haven't they said that the planet in its entirety is going to have a cooler year?
Yeah, I mean, I just, you know, I mean, global warming's like the emperor's new clothes. If you manage to get up and say, you know, well, where's the evidence for this, really? You know, what? You know, everyone shouts you down, like, don't you care about future generations? Don't you care about unborn babies?
Yeah, but I think that the point that you made is actually a very good one, because if you group the both together, and global warming and, you know, recycling, and let's not have plastic bags, let's have cloth bags, and so on.
Yeah.
Then it's very easy, if you can dismiss one, then it all goes out, doesn't it? You're a bunch of, muesli-eating, sandal-wearing, tree-hugging, bearded freaks.
Yeah.
Without being offensive, yeah. And so it is wrong, really, to ally the two together, because you're right. There's only a crazy person would say, let's carry on polluting and raping the world's resources as we're doing now, because that's not sustainable. Neither is it desirable. I mean, I would like to live in a town where you come home and aren't covered in soot and diesel and, you know, all the rest of the stuff that we have going on here. It'd be nice to breathe fresh. You remember fresh air, don't you?
No.
No.
Well, I'll tell you what would be nice as well. Like, when you finish with clothes and things like that, don't throw them away. I always donate all my clothes to, like, charities, and then they send them abroad or whatever. You know, if you think about it, you have got a choice when you finish with a can. You can either get it turned into another can, or it can be dug under the ground. You know, it's a clear choice.
I think that clothes is an interesting issue as well, because isn't it true? I heard from somebody who runs one of these high street charities that they're turning away second-hand clothes now because they've just got so many of them because of all the sort of explosion in cheap fashions. People, you know, fashions used to be relatively expensive, and like I was mentioning the cost of things in the 70s compared to now. I bet clothes have plummeted now.
Yeah.
Because you go to the high street and you can get a T-shirt for 50p, you go to the supermarket and you can get jeans for $3.99. I mean, whoever imagined such a thing? And so people are buying things, and new ones, just because they haven't got any clean clothes and they can't be bothered to wash them, and you wear them once and then you throw them away. And the fashion industry has got to be one of the most wasteful businesses on earth.
Yeah, totally. That's why when it cuts to the news sometimes and you're in, like, downtown Soweto or wherever, you know, in these places, you know, for the back of beyond, they're all wearing, like, England shirts.
That's right.
And Bermuda shorts. And, you know, they've got, like, CNA socks and, you know, it's like things you haven't seen for, like, 20 years, you know, like flares and, you know, that's why, because they're getting all of that. I mean, I've done a boot sale, right? And a load of African women bought all of my old shoes that were in still pretty good nick, all of my old work ties, all of my everything, and I asked them why. They were bartering me for it as well, heavily. And they put a shipment together and sent it back home.
I bet they look fantastic in it.
I don't think they do. I've had them for about 15 years.
Well, I'll watch for them on the news.
Yeah, have a butcher's. I'll see you later.
All right, thanks, Danny. This is LBC. We have a How Low auction running at the moment. It's for a 32-inch Samsung LCD TV. I'm looking at a picture of it right now, and I'm telling you, it looks fabulous. Widescreen, LCD, 32-inch, HD ready. It's got picture processing technology giving the best viewing experience on the market. I am not making that up. I'm reading it. It's got built-in Freeview. You get access to all those extra fabulous channels without the necessity of a set-top box. It's got high-definition scaling. I've no idea what that is. If you would like to enter this auction, it's a reverse auction, by which I mean the person with the lowest unique bid wins. The lowest bid in pence that nobody else makes. The game closes at 7 p.m. tomorrow. You can bid right now. To bid, text LBC plus your bid in pence to 88821. If, for instance, you were to bid £2.10, then you would text LBC 210 to 88821. Bids cost you £1.50 plus your standard network rate. Lines close 7 p.m. tomorrow, Tuesday, 8th of April. Bidders must be over 16. See lbc.co.uk for full terms and conditions. And the very best of luck with that. If, by the way, you've missed any part of this super show, then you can catch up with it on our website, which is allthews.lbc.co.uk/LBC Plus.
Orky/Dorky.
I had a brain failure for a moment there. Hey, James, what have we talked about tonight, then, eh?
Tonight we talked about dipping Anne Robinson in Vaseline.
Oh, yeah.
The ladies at Aintree, and I
forgot about that.
Ladies in inverted commas.
Yeah, ladies.
Shock docs.
You're right there,
Wayne and Colleen's wedding. Kids wanting to be like Jade Goody, Brand Beckham, Brand Rooney. Yeah. Olympic torch has gone out.
It does.
Salvador Dali on an American game show.
Yes. Not crazy.
Is it allowed to do a U-turn, going through red lights, nicking things from the police, including the flashing blue lights,
yes.
Finding a carpet and a sofa in the middle of the road, buying cheap goods from China? Inflation figures are less than accurate, and stuff costs less than before.
Yes.
Tsunami on the sun, rubbish weather forecasts, kids used to be remote controls, Gordon Grant Daphne.
He's lost interest towards the end there. LBC.
The Volvo C70